Yes.
Now it starts. Now you want to know why?
Emails.
Yeah, now you want to know why. These emails are under like, woo, we can't.
Wait. Have we seen the email? Are we going to see
I'm
the
gonna
email?
put it up here.
Good morning. Welcome back to Talking Racine. Boy, we got a good show for you this morning, don't we, George?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yes, confirmed by Mr. George Myers.
Yeah,
Interesting
I'm still
show.
trying to figure it out, but it looks really good.
And Jim Spodek,
Yep.
producer.
Yep.
How do you feel about today's show?
I like it.
You excited?
I am.
Oh,
You can
man.
see it in me.
He's full of synergy,
Project Synergy.
whatever that is.
And I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. Let's recap what we did last week just a little bit. We were talking about Machinery Row again. We're kind of getting you back to the roots of Machinery Row and how this interfaces with this current project that the city has going on of maintaining silence. You know, I mean, there's this this cap or this what is the term that they used for the court case? Closed.
Closed.
Case, yeah.
The
The
closure on
Sandy
Sandy
Widener's
Widener's
Emails.
emails.
Right.
Shut it down. Don't say anything about it. Everybody keep quiet.
Right.
Yeah. And how that kind of interfaces with what happened with Machinery Row and what continues to happen with Machinery Row. There were things going on back there that Sandy was the first person to really
Right.
Started asking
mention in a
questions.
public way. Yeah, she started
Putting out
asking questions down
emails.
at the- yeah.
Questions on emails.
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
them emails. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah, when you ask questions on an email, you got to shut that down quick.
Yeah.
well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
attorney-client privilege there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who's the client? I guess the corporation of the city of Racine.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be worked out in the courts, and it's probably going to take
It's going to take
national view.
some highfalutin arguments.
Yeah,
is going
you
to be
got that
going
right.
on around. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like the fact that it's getting in the open, and then people are going to talk about it.
So where do we start with today's adventure? I have something about April of 2012.
Yeah, that was when Vanderwall and Associates out of Madison first contacted.
No, that's a lawyer's firm, right? That's
no,
legal.
they're
No,
like a
that's a
design firm.
Oh, design firm.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But I'm sure they've got lawyers in their
Yeah,
employ.
yeah.
You know.
They better. Yeah.
You have a couple lawyers on retainer, don't you?
Oh. Yeah.
You better. The way you operate, my God.
Way to show up right better.
Yeah. Being on this show, I better.
My dad always told me I should have gone to law school.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well. Yeah. Too late.
Anyway, Vanderwall contacted Rick Olson about looking at his building at 900 Water Street.
Now this again, we go back to Root Works, which was adopted in July of 2012. Now this was in April, so earlier on than the adoption of the project or the plan, they were already contacting the owners of the buildings down on Machinery Row, Olson, Azarian, and Jensen.
Keita Jensen.
And
Yeah.
Rootworks was like a slightly larger, would you say, than Machinery
Yeah.
Row? But it's along the river. It's a great big development.
Right.
That includes Machinery Row plus
Right.
some other
Right.
peripheral.
Overlying area.
Well, it goes up
properties.
onto the west side of the river, and the Machinery Row project is on
Right.
the east and the south of the river.
Right.
'Cause the river
But we
makes a
went
bend
through
there.
the plan. It was a back to the root plan in 2008, and we kind of discussed Supervisor Osterman kind of moving in and being paid off, and then it just kind of been growing from that point on.
You just had to throw that in there, didn't
I
you?
did.
That little derogatory remark about
who are you
Monty
talking about?
Osterman.
Supervisor Monty Osterman.
What's his name?
Osterman?
Osterman?
Yes.
Osterman. Yeah.
But anyway, they're negotiating with Olson, or at least making contact with him, saying, "Hey, we're really looking at these buildings." But I want to point one thing out. Back in 2012, Jensen Metals, which was out on Highway K,
And that was Keita Jensen.
Keita Jensen,
Yeah.
who at the time was looking to expand. And there was an article in the paper on May 14th, 2012, right around the same time they were contacting Olson, who said Jensen Metal is out of room at its facility at Highway K and is willing and wants to convert its downtown warehouse at 820 Water Street into manufacturing space. We have no space left. We're turning away jobs at this time, Jensen said. The future downtown shop will be about 7,000 square foot satellite manufacturing facility for our overflow work from the 32,000 square foot main plant. An expansion of required funds, Jensen said. And Walker's office announced the company is eligible up to $150,000 in tax credits through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corp. They will be distributed annually in direct relation to the number of jobs retained and the new full-time positions. She was looking at expanding down there. So
yeah,
her expansion was going to be into those machinery.
They were expanding their manufacturing. They had storage facilities down there, and they were going to.
Right. So they weren't. This wasn't this dead zone that they wanted to make everybody believe.
Oh no, not at all.
There was things going on,
and
we'll go into this later on, in not in this show, but another show, and we'll talk about some of the companies in the.
Well, we've talked about it.
There were like 12 to 16 companies down there.
But I want to get into a little bit more of the details of it. I want to get into emails because we've got a slew of emails, and I want to let them out.
How many is a slew?
Oh, I've stacked that high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Big slew.
Can't wait to see that.
That's a little slew.
All right. Now, there was offers were made to the properties by Blackwell, made to the owners of the properties in April of 2013. They actually took out options on the property. It was
not in 2013. What had happened was, and we've got some emails from Olson not negotiating, but back and forth with looking at the buildings. Now Olson kind of oversaw and I think was the most active seller down there. He had the most amount of buildings. He probably, decided.
Well, because
no, Olson.
Was he? Oh, I'm sorry.
Olson,
I was thinking of Jensen.
No, Olson had the most amount of properties. It was probably he would have been the sought after seller because he would have had the largest amount of building and the largest amount of space. Now, we can go on to the next one, but now they're working through this RootWorks plan. They file for federal historic tax credits. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot now, but I want people to remember they're applying for these federal tax credits, and they did it in April of 2013. They were denied in August of 2013. So that would have been a federal government historic tax credits on the buildings that were down there, and they said, nope,
no,
we're not giving them to you.
That meant the project was kaput.
Pretty much over.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, they were anticipating that part of the financing package. They didn't receive it, so they didn't stop. And I
Do you have some information on that indicating that everybody knew it was dead?
Yep. Everybody knew it was dead, and there was emails came back from actually, I believe it was the financial CFO from FDP.
Which is Rodney Blackwell.
Right.
No, he wasn't the CFO.
FDP is Rodney Blackwell.
Yes, but the CFO was, well, it does
Financial District Property.
Yeah, his name isn't real important at this moment.
But anyway, we do have
flash
emails that said,
Bryce Henderson it was.
Right,
yeah.
exactly, that these tax credits were no longer available through the federal government.
And now once those tax credits were no longer available, what did that do with the project? Did that affect it bigly or what?
Well,
that pretty much sunk it.
Pretty much put it to a halt.
Because that was one of the key things.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like a big money-making thing, but how many millions was that?
Well, I don't know what they were asking for at that time, but I'm assuming it would probably be $10 million worth, or roughly in that area.
There was a lot.
Yeah.
And those are tax credits, by the way. Now, tax credit is not like a tax deduction. Two totally different things. Tax deduction means you get to deduct it off your income, which saves you about whatever your tax rate is. If you're saving paying a 15% tax rate, you save 15% of the tax deduction. A tax credit is a full-fledged credit. In other words, $10 million in taxes get saved.
Yeah,
now, what happens?
You owe $10 million and you got $10 million worth of credits, and you zeroed out.
Nothing.
Right.
You don't deduct it and pay 15%.
And what happens in a project like this is he doesn't take them. He's not making $10 million, but a company, say Kimberly-Clark or an insurance company, will buy those tax credits.
That's right. Those tax credits are transferable
They're
to
transferable.
Available on the market.
That's where it gets really tricky.
80 to 90 cents on a dollar. So we're talking about, if a $10 million tax credit, you're talking maybe to cash, maybe $8 to $9 million in actual cash. If I'm picking up $1 million in credit, and it costs me $8 million to do it or $9 million to do it, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So that's how that money
Particularly if it only costs you $4 or $5 million.
Right.
And
So
you're
the
gonna get $9
corporation-
million tax
right.
credits.
You guys are talking about a lot of money here. I'm getting confused.
Okay, but
you can
anyway,
make some good money off of those tax credits.
right?
Yeah.
But the federal government said no dice
Right.
on the Machinery Row project, so they went to the state, and the state initially said no dice. We're not doing it. So
The state said no too?
no, they didn't. They wouldn't do it either.
Well,
Now
can't
they were
we-
asking for this $9 million.
Can't we do something about that?
Well, they were over exceeding the amount that the state was willing to allocate for.
Well, can't we rewrite the law or something?
Well, we had two qualified persons, Corey Mason and John Dickert, who went to Madison to lobby for $9 million in tax credits.
How did they do?
And that's where Corey gets involved, or at least we know he's deeply involved.
He
in
was
it.
involved at that time. So
Oh, well, yeah, I think he was involved before then because he was the first one I really knew Vanderwall.
Right.
wasn't he?
He from the very, very beginning, he was very instrumental in this. And so I've got Corey talking about the tax credits at a common council meeting. So I'm going to play that, and we can kind of discuss it.
All right.
Nobody's asking the city to go this alone. The state literally changed the law, in no small part because of this project, to bring historic tax credits to Racine, some other communities as well, but Racine specifically.
He said Wisconsin changed the law.
Yes.
Right.
Did it really, or did it just do him a favor? Was it?
No, they adopted legislation to increase the amount of tax credits allowable for communities, and I think that cap, I'm just off the top of my head, was like $4 or $5 million for a project. They basically open-ended that with the legislature. Now they used Robin Voss was involved. There were a couple other legislators, high-powered.
It had to be,
Yeah.
to get the whole legislature. It was controlled by Republicans.
So they worked it inside. Now Corey Mason, he talks about bipartisan support, but I want people to remember that because we're going to go back to those tax credits toward not maybe at the end of this show, but at some point later. I want to bring those tax credits up because that's an important factor that I think a lot of people overlook. Because they use it as a leverage, and leveraging money, we got to get those tax credits are going to be taken away. Those tax credits are going to be
That's
taken
right.
away.
Remember, there was a push
Yeah,
on it because
right.
of the $9 million in tax credit was
Right.
a temporary thing. You had to take it's a buy now type of thing.
So they
Right.
were used to create a sense of urgency for the city council. Like
Correct.
if we don't approve this project, we're going to lose those $9 million in tax credits.
Right.
We
And
can't
those
do
got
that.
approved at Madison level. Now, now Machinery Row is no longer Little Racine. It's in Madison.
Yeah.
So they're working on the tax credits for Racine. Who's working in Madison on those tax credits? And what benefit was to Madison legislators for Racine? And what did they know in Madison about those tax credits? That's a question that we're going to dig
That's
into.
a real
little bit.
good question.
We're going to dig into that a little bit later.
Well, I think it turned out that the $9 million that eventually was approved by the state of Wisconsin for Racine's project, that was basically all the tax credits that were available for that year.
Absolutely was.
Yeah,
We-
the Machinery Row project just wiped the slate clean.
Exactly.
Wow.
Emptied the piggy bank.
We
so
emptied
that-
the piggy bank.
So that $9 million would normally have been broken up into various little
Yeah,
projects
right.
throughout the state,
Mhm.
but we absorbed it all here to push Machinery Row forward.
Correct.
So other parts of the state were probably a little bit, curious, like, what the heck is going
Yeah,
on down there?
well,
Now
well,
they,
yeah,
they
sure.
swallowed up all the tax credits.
Yeah.
And now, $9 million, that ain't nothing compared to $4.5 billion that Foxconn has gobbled up.
Well, they always say Machinery Row was the test for Foxconn. I'm not sure that isn't true.
And there's the potential of losing $9 million worth of credits if action isn't taken before the end of the year. I would hate to see that as a possible outcome of today. So nobody's asking the city to bear the brunt of it alone. You had a bipartisan coalition of legislators work together to get this stuff
I
done.
just want to point the fact out. You got Robin Voss, John Dickert, Corey Mason, Jim Ladwig, county exec at the time.
2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. I call that bipartisan.
It's
yeah.
all bipartisan. They're
Right.
coming together. They're going to create this great project for the city of Racine. Who knew what when? Is my
Yeah,
question.
that's a good. I suspect Jim Ladwig and Robin Voss weren't in on the entire thing. It'd be interesting.
Were they played, George, or did they know?
I think they were played.
Yeah.
I think it sounded good. I mean, it did
really
sound
think
good.
so?
They had that picture underneath the tent. Who was there at that one when they announced
Well,
it?
they were all there. I mean, they couldn't line up. I mean, you got a camera and a project. You got every
Yeah.
politician. They
Those two
compile it on each
connivers got played by Dickert and Mason? You serious? I think they were all
You
in
think
this.
they knew that Rodney Blackburn was just a straw
I
man?
think they were all in this.
Well, at some point, somebody found
I'm not
out.
sure how that's got to be kept somewhat undercover. We know it's. Wait, no, look what's going on now.
As long as you didn't know about it, that was enough.
But I got a
You
feeling
and I we did not need to know.
right.
Those other
Certainly,
guys-
the taxpayer didn't need to know.
No.
But we're gonna dig into that a little bit later. We got some information on
Yeah,
that.
because there's a need to know too, and
Right.
pushing it. And I'm not sure they needed to know that Rodney Blackwell is just a straw man, where others might have needed to know.
Okay, so we'll move into the project here a little bit before we get to some of these emails. We'll kind of work through this, but there were 3 sellers on the property: Azarian, Olson, and Jensen.
Is that what we got there on the screen? Is that
Yes.
okay?
And Olson and Azarian, and they each received $5,000 once April 8th to secure the properties. Now there was offers made. We're going to put an option. We want to know if we can get the tax credits.
Now, who put up the 5,000?
That would have been
Blackwell.
Blackwell. This is the offer to purchase. Okay, 5,000 to each of them, so that they could not sell it anyplace else and do anything with it for that period of time.
for 3 months.
Yeah,
months,
that's well, you know that. I mean,
Yeah,
you're in real estate. That's
Right.
what an option
So-
is. It basically says I'll give you $5,000, and you promise not to sell it to anybody else until we set up a contract.
Right, because there is time. I mean, a big project like that, you need time to
Yeah.
evaluate the project.
That's right.
And if we don't do it by such and such a date, then I lose my money.
Correct. So the 3 months ran out, July 8th, he renews the option. I need more time. So he gives them another $5,000 apiece.
Wow, he's got $30,000 invested by this
Correct.
time, huh? Wow.
Correct. So, I mean, things are going.
30,000.
Right.
Okay.
Remember that
I
number.
want to remember that number.
Okay.
30,000.
So now things are rolling along, and they're going to announce the project.
Heard all the good things. We want to remind you that this is the first step. We're actually at the very, very first step of this project. We have a lot of work to do. Site control is what we're announcing today, but we have a lot of work in financing. We have a lot of work in assessment. We're going to be talking to the state and federal levels, and all of our partners at the private sector, as well as the university systems and the other NGOs. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we feel very good about where we're going and what the future.
Now we're into September,
The next month.
and Rick Olson
months.
gets an email from James Bowman, who is part of Financial District Properties, saying that they're not going to make an offer on the properties right now.
James Bowman
Because they
is
can't-
bowing out for Rodney Blackwell. No, he's
Yeah,
got Rodney
because they're
Blackwell's
canceling the-
representative.
They're
Right.
not getting any financing, and so they're not going to.
Right.
Even
Despite the tax credits.
Even though the tax credits have been firmed up, at least for the time being, they're backing away from it.
Even with the tax credits, they can't do it.
Right.
Right.
They're out.
I
Yeah.
received an option cancellation this morning through my attorney, and now I am really confused. This is
Rick
from
Olson.
Rick Olson going back to James Bowman, who had sent one and said, at this point, we're not extending the options because they were going to be due actually the 8th of September. Another option payment would have been due for controlling that property.
And at
Yeah,
this-
they've already had 2, so a third one will be due now.
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
take into consideration, at this point, the announcement has already been made about this grand project.
Right.
So Azarian Marina, who's going to go and rent space from them? Who's going to patronize Azarian Marina? They say that's got no future, so they're going to move on to somewhere else. And the fish operation, the fish growing operation, well,
Companies are already moving out of the building.
He's
Well,
ramping
yeah.
that
Well,
down.
at that
Yeah,
point,
everything is
they're
like-
already getting the notice. You guys are going to sell, and we're buying your property, and you guys got to move out
Yeah.
and get your, junk out of here. And so, I mean, it's in a roll.
The momentum has begun.
Right. So
for the sale. To
For
get
the
rid of it.
sale.
Yeah,
Yeah, and for all the people that are down there, it's
Yeah,
like
and Machinery Row and everything's
your
going
life
good.
is going to change. You adjust to it. So they start adjusting, and then
And
he
Rick
gets-
Olson gets a, and that's what we're
Yeah.
seeing on here. He's responding. He gets an email that says, "Guess what? We can't do it."
Yeah,
Right.
we're not so sure about this
So
right
then,
now.
what
and
we're
what
seeing
would
on the
make that
screen here
happen?
is
Why all of a sudden would the Rick or FDP Blackwell FDP properties say we can't do this? I mean, what's the number one reason why you can't do it?
Can't get financing.
Absolutely, couldn't get the financing.
Yeah.
And if you had the financing, let her rip. But now you got all the politicians lined up, just like
they just did a big show there at the,
Right.
Yeah.
under the tent and everything else, and all of a sudden
Those
Blackwell
tents aren't
can't
cheap
the
either,
financing.
George. You know.
Project dead.
Right.
It's it. Gone, right?
It's gone.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about it anymore, right?
So
Well, hang on.
Wait, there's more?
there's more.
Come
What
on.
more can it be? The project's dead.
This was 4 years ago. Come on, you know there's more.
How do I know
Spoiler
that?
alert.
Okay. Now we get
What do you mean
an
now?
extension.
It's dead.
Well, it lives again. Now.
Well, how about, wait, I got an idea. How about if the city lends them the money to buy this property?
Well, this is right before. Now another option comes. And it says at November 21st, an option comes. Now we're talking another month, couple of months
Yeah.
later, an option shows up and says, "Hey, we're going to renew these options. We're going to," but as it says here, in the event the property fails to close, option payments will be returned to FDP. I mean,
That 30,000?
The 30,000.
Is that 30,000 we
I
have to
get it back.
remember?
Well,
they put 30,000 up to this point.
That's right. It's 15,
I
15
know
is
they
30.
did because
so-
I saw it on the screen.
Right.
Yeah, but well, if it falls through, they want it all
Jim
back.
showed it on the screen.
Typically,
Proof.
you do not get your options back
No,
if you're buying
no.
property and you decide not to buy it.
They all sign it. They figure, they're in a bad place. They got their tenants are moving out.
Yeah, they're in Racine. That's
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was functioning businesses there. Now all of a sudden it's under this threat of we're going to buy it. We got politicians announcing it. I got a buyer who's not buying it now, but I'm in this pickle. Now all
I'm
of a sudden,
losing my tenants.
yeah.
Losing
Now
my
all of a
source of
sudden,
income.
I get another option. Well, I'm going to lunge at that option. Hopefully, you can buy it now and get me out of this problem I'm in.
And,
Because you created the problem, but I have to live with it.
Yeah.
right.
So let's just press forward.
So we're if the project's dead, no more financing. The key was the financing.
Yeah, it's not like there was no more financing. There was no
No
financing.
financing, right?
Yeah.
So we need to restore the financing somehow.
Yeah, what are we going
Is there
to
any
do?
plan for that?
Well, geez, George, I don't know. Maybe.
Who around could finance it?
Well,
no bank wants to do it, right?
Well,
Right.
we got an intergovernmental fund with millions of dollars in it. It's just sitting there.
We wouldn't want to do that. I mean, a bank wouldn't do it. Why would we do it?
Well, George, they did.
Well,
So, they all of a sudden, on December 10th, 2014, it's a miracle. We're going to loan Rodney Blackwell.
Who's we?
The
You and
city of
me.
Racine. He's going to loan Rodney Blackwell
You got a mouse in your pocket?
$4.5 million in a city loan.
yes.
This
I'm
is
loaning
now-
the money now. Huh?
Exactly. Now, this was printed in the Racine
I
Journal
wasn't
Times.
asked about
Well,
that.
each of us has probably got $100 in the kitty, I mean, let's be realistic about it.
Machinery project manager Jim Bowman said FDP would give the city a note for the loan and put at least $200,000 into a restricted escrow account to cover the 1% interest payments made on the loan for 24 months.
Well, that sounds perfectly reasonable.
We're going to loan $4.5 million. Blackwell, FDP, said we're going to pay 1% interest on that loan until we get our financing in order and we get things set up.
You give us the money,
Right.
we'll buy the property,
Right.
and we'll put some money aside to guarantee that we're going to be making the interest payments on that loan that you've given us.
It's your money that we're putting aside, but we'll make sure that you get
Well,
paid with it.
they didn't tell us that.
Yeah, they did. They never mentioned that in this article. If you notice that, now this
Yeah.
was printed multiple
Oh,
times.
this is a
in the
Journal
Racine-
Times article. Yeah, you
Right.
got it.
This was in the
There you go.
Journal Times. So
See, now
multiple
that's
times.
where it gets interesting.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little bit deceptive.
Yeah.
Now at this
A
point,
little bit.
so
A little deceptive.
right
Okay,
now,
not real deceptive.
So we saw Corey there at the city council meeting. He said, "We got to hurry up. We got to hurry up. We're going to lose these tax credits." So the
well,
city comes up
now
with
we're
$4.5
getting into
million.
a Sandy Widener email.
Yes.
Now it
Uh-oh.
starts. Now you want to know why?
Emails.
Yeah. Now you want to know why. These emails are under like, woo, we can't.
Wait. Have we seen the email? Are we going to
I'm
see
going
the
to
email?
put it up here. Alderman Widener sends an email
Whoa.
to Friedel and the city attorney. And it says, and finally, and this is part of it, exactly how much is Rodney Blackwell paying for each individual property in this development? I know we are proposing to borrow him $4.5 million, but that doesn't mean that is how much he is paying. The properties are assessed in a total of
$4,046,000.
Why would we borrow $454,000 more than assessed value? A great question.
Yeah, it is a great question.
That should be censored.
Yeah, that's what happened.
You people don't need to know about this. You
Right.
just close your eyes and close your minds, because this is none of
That's
your business.
dangerous words up
Yes,
there.
You got
Yes.
that right.
It's your money, but none of your
Close
business.
the doors, pull the shades down, seal it.
So, she's asking this question. Now, she has no idea that behind the scenes, this money is being, a slush fund is being created for $450,000.
Right? No, she's
she-
asking a perfectly legitimate question
Right.
that anybody should ask. Why are we loaning
Well, there's
$4.5 million on $4 million worth of property?
At this point, she has no idea other
She's just
than
looking at a simple thing.
I'm asking a simple question. Why are we loaning them $450,000 more than what we're paying for the property?
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense.
Why am I getting a $50,000 mortgage on a $40,000 house?
Right. Right. And
What's going on?
And who is the,
you got to redo the kitchen, George. Come on.
Yeah.
but you know, the fact is that the taxpayers is the one putting up the money. So shouldn't
Yeah.
the taxpayers have
And shouldn't-
access to this
And
information?
shouldn't an alderman be interested in it?
Is she representing the constituents of the city of Racine?
And if she gets an answer from that, should she be allowed to talk about it?
That's
Absolutely.
well, apparently not, but yes, she should be.
Interesting
We'll-
questions.
Yeah, we'll go to the next. Okay, now the city goes to the Common Council. They approve a $4.5 million loan to FDP. And
That's the December 17th.
December
Okay.
17th. That was a Common Council meeting where they approved it, and aldermen are just trying to crawl over each other, other than Eddie Deal, Sandy Widener, and there was another alderman, I can't remember. I think it was,
Might have been Shields.
I think it was Michael Shields. You're absolutely right. Yeah, sorry. But they asked the questions like, you know, we need more time, but I mean, Kaplan and Helding and Shakur, I mean, they just were
Oh, the
melting
gang,
over
yeah.
they had-
Bipartisan
Oh, yeah.
gangsmanship.
Well, there's a lot of money to be made here. You know, this is going to revitalize the
Right.
city, and really, it's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to be new housing. There's going to be
We
new
could go on
business.
the whole Common Council meeting.
Wait a minute. We keep talking about there's going to be these things. Now we're in the future now.
Right.
We're in the future of the discussion that went on back there. This is 2018. This is 2018.
Yep.
Almost 2019 that we're in right now. This was almost 5 years ago.
And boy, nothing exploded, did it?
Well, 4 years ago, December of 2014. We're approaching December
4 years,
of,
yeah, closing 4 years.
four
So
years,
let's go to the next one.
and nothing happened of any value.
Now, prior to the closing, they hired a outside attorney. Now, but in this agreement that the outside attorney had, it said there was a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So Rodney Blackwell was signing a deed in lieu of foreclosure. What that means is I'm signing the property. He hasn't even bought the property, but I'm signing that property back to the city in case there's a default.
In case I don't pay you.
In case there's no money in mine and there's no, I default. Which was, that is...
That's a big red flag right there.
That's a classic straw man move right there. That is about as good as it gets. So he's signing the property over in the agreement. I'll sign the agreement, but I'm going to sign over a deed that you can file anytime with the Register of Deeds and take the property back.
Right.
So a classic straw man move right there. So at this point, who was all involved in this? Who knew everything? And why did we hire an outside attorney to do this?
Yeah, it seems like we hiring outside attorneys all the time. What in the heck is the city
Well, you're
attorney's
trying
office
to
doing?
avoid. Oh, I'm thinking, if I'm an attorney, I'm avoiding this whole mess, and I'm going to put that over here, and I'm going to look this way because when if and when it blows up, I don't know anything about
Well,
it.
we hired a consultant there,
Right.
so we depended upon them.
And
to
that's
do
the
what was
line they'll
best
give
for
to
the
JT,
city.
and that's the line they'll put in the paper to the taxpayer, who's on the hook and losing now multi-millions.
They worked with great diligence, and they're very, very competent people. And sometimes things go wrong, and in this situation, something went wrong.
One other Widener email.
Yeah.
And this one is, if I could direct you to paragraph 2 of an original email that we just referred to back, I am now asking a specific question, because she asked a question and she didn't get an answer. Now, this is the 23rd of December 2000. This is after the 4.5 had been agreed to, loan to FDP Blackwell. When I was asking the specific questions about the involvement of the city attorney in selecting hiring the special consultant in the Machinery Row project, I need some clarification on the selection. I was told the city attorney had not been involved. A few days later, I was told that he had been after all. So, who hired the council to put this developers agreement together, set up a straw man purchase of the property. Who was that? She's asking that question. She didn't even know at this time it was a straw man. All she's asking for is, why did we hire this outside counsel to do the paperwork for this?
It seems like a relatively simple thing.
It is.
I know I've dealt with a little bit in some things where they need a little bit of some property that we manage or whatever, and so they need a little portion of it, and it's all done by the city attorney. It's all done by in-house. They don't hire an outside. It's a simple thing, a transfer of some property.
Right.
Unless the city attorney just wants to make sure that
he's got some
distance.
He's
not not too involved with this.
Right.
And it's
like driving down a country road and seeing a dead skunk, and you go, you go around it.
Yeah. Whoa. Now
this email too is, this is that we're back in December of 2014. But as we're going to go through, we're going to see how these two the emails of Widener, the ethics complaint against Widener, and how this played back to 2014. That this is an ongoing censorship of Widener, the alderperson, and possibly other ones. Eddie Deal was also involved.
This is more email stuff.
This is more
that got sent to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're poison, man.
Yeah.
But
George, let's get out of here.
but the citizens.
And now you're showing it on TV. To the public.
Really
What do you think? You think an open government over there at 730 Washington Avenue?
Who knows what's going to happen? We don't know.
You're killing my mother.
Yeah, you are.
She was proud of her son.
Yeah. But I think what we need to do is really look at how this was structured, how this was put together, and how all this continues. The cover-up continues. It's not going away, and there's no investigation.
Well, it would begin to make sense now, where maybe what it looks like kind of an innocent email, or something that an alderman got, asked a question, got an answer, and all of a sudden it's shut down and in secret. It's been sealed, and nobody can even find the case number.
Exactly.
And this is the type of thing that
Well, somebody did find the case number eventually. It took a lot of digging. It's supposed to be a public record, but it wasn't. But somebody did find it, and so that's why there's so much.
We'll move on to the next
noise being made now. Oh God, there's more.
So, on December 31st. Olson sells his property at 900 Water Street for $1.5 million. Remember that 1.5. Mm-hmm. Azarian sells his property for $1,093,000. On the same day, a $250,000 kickback was collected by the developer from the sellers. Azarian gave $100,000. Olson was approximately $150,000.
Well, let's see. There's $1.5 million, and then there's just a little over $1 million. That's like $2.5 million approximately, and a $250,000 kickback. That's like 10%.
That's exactly what it was, a 10% kickback.
Oh, for crying out loud. The mathematics is beautiful, isn't it?
On December 31st, there's a closing statement. Mm-hmm. The closing statement, or the escrow, the money is put into an escrow account for this 1% loan that's supposed to be paid. But the money is drawn from the sellers, so that $450,000 that Sandy Widener was asking about earlier on, why are we loaning $450,000 more than the assessed value? That $450,000 is extracted because they're telling the Common Council and they're telling the citizens of Racine we're paying $1,000,001 for Azarian, $1.5 for Olson. That's not really what they're paying. They've extracted 10%, put it in this escrow account. That escrow account then gives Blackwell back his $30,000.
He got $30,000.
That's right here. It says Blackwell draws a $30,000 and from the reserve.
And Bowman, who is also working as a real estate person, gets a. This is on the day of closing. Gets a $31,000 check.
Well, he's part of Financial District Properties, and he gets a $31,000, $862 real estate commission. That's weird.
Exactly.
Now, was that part of the deal for Rodney Blackwell? Remember, he was out of it. He couldn't get his financing. He's gone.
Yeah.
He gets drawn back in. Was that part of the deal that he would come back in, but he wanted his 30,000 back?
Absolutely, but why would he?
Sure looks like it.
Yeah, I'm going to get
That would be an incentive for him to get re-involved with this, even though.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, in my understanding, what you're saying, that's an incentive for him to become a straw man.
If you look at the tops, is Bowman collects 88,000 in fees. What those fees were, I'm not exactly. 30,000 goes to the developer. But if you go to the right of that, this is an email that was sent to Olson's attorney Wyatt at the time, and this is from Blackwell's attorney, and he says in this email, we need to speak to Elaine. Now, Elaine was actually the hired consultant for the city.
She's the one, where the city attorney didn't want. We didn't want to say that we need to speak to Scott.
Right.
We don't want that.
He's driving around the dead skunk.
Right.
He's driving around the dead skunk. Right.
Elaine has got the dead skunk in a plastic bag.
Yeah,
exactly. To see if the city is comfortable with lowering the purchase price to 1.35, but keeping the loan amount at 1.5 to fund the reserve. Now that's Olson's property. He was selling it for 1.5. We're only giving him 1.35. Is Elaine comfortable with that, with the city money?
You know what that sounds? You know what that looks like to me? That looks to me like a statement, a very smart statement by Rodney Blackwell saying, "I don't think this is exactly on the up and up, but I need something on the record that shows that I have a concern about it, and that somebody else is okaying it that's got some authority."
That's exactly what it is.
And that, what that looks like?
Covering.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what that is.
And Elaine's got the skunk in a bag going, I'm on my way to the landfill. Yeah, whatever you say is fine.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's very smart of Blackwell.
It was. Because it took Blackwell out of the fraud.
That's right.
At least
he can't come back and say, hey, no, I checked.
Feasible deniability.
Beforehand.
Is that the right term?
Well, in a court of law, we'll see, but it'll never get to a court of law because you don't have law enforcement. They'll pick up a kid, I always say, with a bag of marijuana, but they'll never pick this up. This is a high-level fraud. High level. When you talk about these guys are such high level, that's high level. Right?
Blackwell indicates not strictly on the up and up. He said right there.
Yeah.
He reveals it, but he says, "Are you sure? Make sure Elaine says this is okay."
And that was probably advice from his attorney because it was his attorney sending it. Like, whoa, are you really sure you're doing this? And I'm sure he's saying, "I'm getting my money back. I'm getting out of Dodge."
Well, let's hurry up and put a bow tie on this thing. Huh?
The last property is Jensen's property now, or the additional monies are kicked back. This money went into the escrow account. I'm sorry, we're going to move past it.
The Jensen property is what finalized the $450,000,
right.
The money that came from her.
Now, here's Corey Mason on December the 17th, 2014, when the Common Council is voting for the $4.5 million. He's in the front asking the Common Council to approve the $4.5 million to Blackwell to move this project forward.
Yeah.
I think when people think about the funds that you're considering before you, it was with the ambition that we could invest in things in the city that would be game changers for the future of the city, that we could do things that were big and bold and change the redevelopment direction of the city. And that's what you have in front of you, members of the council, an opportunity to do something big and bold that would literally change the way people think about downtown and the river, and I'd even argue the city itself. So I can't think of a more appropriate use of the funds than a big project like this. And I would even challenge you, if it's not for a big and bold project like this, what would you fund it for? I mean, it's really a great opportunity.
I guess to finish the program, I guess the fact is that emails back from 14 have now surfaced, and I don't know if they're in this packet of emails or not, but the fact is that those emails are detrimental to the fraud that happened on Machinery Row.
It'd be nice if they would just
expository
or whatever.
It'd be nice if those emails just disappeared.
Exactly.
Yes, or we
that'd be nice.
Put them in a dark box somewhere.
Yeah,
and seal it up
make sure that they come under the definition of attorney-client privilege, so that nobody can ever disseminate them again.
And you think about
seal them up with judicial tape.
Yes.
Yeah, but think about this for a minute. Now, at that point, Alderman Widener didn't even know what she was asking. She had a hunch. Why are we loaning more money?
Yeah.
Why have we hired outside counsel? I mean, it's just a natural
She recognized the irregularities and she wanted an explanation.
Exactly.
Is basically
but
all
see,
it was.
at that point, those emails really didn't mean anything because nobody knew really what was going on.
Now, next week, come back next week, because we're going to go back even further into this, because there is more history here than what you have seen thus far. And
oh yeah, closing the record. Her emails isn't just about Machinery Row. She's been into a lot of stuff.
Right.
No, but I mean,
and the city's got a lot of things it's got to worry about. I mean, I don't think there's a departmental head over there that hadn't got something to hide.
Yeah. There's a lot
to what degree?
A lot of closets in City Hall, and every one of them.
But one of the things I want to bring up about Corey Mason, that was the 17th of December 2014. The structure for the straw man has already been set up. They knew he couldn't get the financing. That's why they're borrowing the money, and he's making a pitch. What did he know? Who knew what when?
All right, let's leave it with that question. And you guys have a real nice Monday. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I hope you have a chance to get together with family and friends and have a little time off from work and eat a lot of good food and watch some football and whatever else it is you do on a Thanksgiving day. So we'll see you in a week. Thanks for being here.